Good morning, everyone. So last session we learnt about few concepts like reducers. Yesterday I explained about some hooks and implementation of all those in our app, in our to-do application. We implemented them. So now one more we are looking at use reducer. Use reducer, we'll see. Yesterday, few points I explained. What is that use reducer is used for handling the global application state. I given definition about that. We learned definition about use reducer, right? Today we'll see how it works. How do we use them? What is the definition I given? We learned that application have application state from start to end, and in the application state for every session, we need to keep the data available. So today we'll see how to implement this. So first, reducer, how to use it is first one point I will give. So it uses the global application state. So it uses global application state. So application state is accessible across sessions. So components across sessions can access data. They can access data by using this. So global application state access across sessions. Components across sessions can access the data. So how it works? Yesterday given some points. What it contains? What are the elements it have? Store, state. I given definition about them, right? So how to define, we will see today. First point. So configure store. You have to configure store. Configure store actually, which is initial state for application. Initial state for application. So store is the location where we store the data. Initially, what you want in it, you have to define. First, a basic example I will show. Yesterday we saw that I told you, suppose you log in from your session and you liked a video or commented on a video or you done something that is visible to others. From their session, it is visible to them. You added from your session, from their session, it is accessible. How it is possible, right? Basic example first I will show. Then complex one we will implement in our project. In our application, we will implement that. Yesterday I told you, we will implement share like option. We'll see. First, what we have to do is we have to configure initial state. It is an object. And in that, you keep the key and value, whatever data you want to store. First, you need to mention what data you want to store, which data you want global. That means now what happens? The keys that you mentioned, the values that you mentioned in initial state, they become global. That means they are considered as global. That means now this data can be accessed by everyone, right? Now I explained a flow. Who is going to update this data? From where we are going to update the data? That means we have 2 points. This is the diagram. So, yes. So we configured global store. Initial state indicates the global store. This global store will be used by component. To use the data, who is responsible for accessing data and providing to component? That is done by state. State is responsible for accessing data and updating. And any modification, any action performed in the component, it will be updated back into the store. So who is responsible for managing state and updating the state? Inside component, who is responsible for managing the state and updating the state? That is done by reducer. So we need to create a reducer. This reducer will use the state and it will use the actions. It will identify changes in that and update into the store. So state and actions are managed by reducer. Reducer will manage the state and it will manage the actions. Dispatcher means it will dispatch an action. Through that action, it can update the data into the store. So the second step, what you have to do is configure a reducer function to manage state and actions. You have to configure a reducer function. This function is for managing the state and actions. So actually, we will have a function, reducer function. It will have state and action. On which action, what state need to be updated? State means it can access the store, whatever you mentioned in initial state. That initial state can be accessed using what? State. That means the store data can be accessed by whom? State. State can access the data which is present here. After that, action indicates what? Action indicates which action performed in the component. That means some button click, drop down change, some action perform. On that action, what new data need to be updated into the store, that is defined. So what is the purpose of state? Collecting data from the store, initial data coming from the store. And what is action? It updates the state. Whatever data is in the state, it is updated by action. Action updates it. So here, what we have to do is we will write a condition action type, because there can be so many actions. We can have multiple actions. If action type is, so action type is matching with some A, then what it should do? It should return an object with a key and updated data. So you define another action B. You can have multiple actions. Return the data key with updated data. That's how we need to define the action. Configure a reducer function to manage state and actions. So that means on which action, what need to be updated into the store, that is decided by reducer. Reducer contains state and actions. State for collecting the data and updating the data. Action indicates when it need to be updated. So on which action, what to be updated, we can have multiple actions or one action. So this is configuration. Now, how component uses it? So component can use the global state and its actions by using use reducer hook. Use reducer hook. Actually, this use reducer, so here important point is use reducer returns. It returns one is a state and a dispatch. State contains data from store. Dispatch contains actions. State contains data from the store and dispatch contains actions. So we need to configure, one is two options, state and dispatch is equal to use reducer. Reducer will return, so the reducer function and initial state. So it uses reducer and initial state. So what dispatch can do? Dispatch can use an action type A or B. You can have dispatch action type B. Which action you want to dispatch? State can access the key and it can use the data. Uses data from store. Dispatch can control actions and the state can use the data from store. This is a basic. This is at small scale. If you are building a small interface in that you want to maintain a global state, you want to handle, this is the process. But in large scale application, we have to maintain a separate library so that it can handle more interactions, more facilities it can provide. First, I will show you this. So basic this is. So what is that? We will go to our previous project. It's not our to-do application. So this is our React demo. Okay. So in this I will add a component called reducer demo. Demo.jsx. For example, export function reducer demo. First, we'll see simple process. Then we will implement an our to-do application, right? So at high level, how we design. Let's see here, simple fluid. And let's keep this reducer demo. Okay. So here, suppose I'm having some video. YouTube, I will open some video. So, and what we will do, any Claude, something. And I will copy this code. That is the YouTube video code. So here I will use a simple. So live something. iframe I am using. iframe source https youtube.com/embed and this video. So width I defined some fixed width we will give 400, height also some fixed like what 400. Okay. Okay. So you have a, yeah, below this I have a button. BTN, suppose primary, BI, thumbs up. Okay, so let's run this. So we have this. Okay, so we have BI, hand, thumbs up. Okay, that's one option we are having. Just like initially, this application don't have any sessions. First, we will just see it, how it works. Then we will implement in the sessions of our to-do application. Another complex we will implement. So what should happen when I click like counter should increase and it is maintained in a global state. What is advantage? From any session, anybody can log in and he can see it. It is visible, accessible to all of them. So how do we do that now? I will maintain here first store. We maintain the global store. So LET initial state is equal to object. In that we want likes. That is the data we want to maintain globally. Initially it is how much? 0. You can have likes, dislikes, views, comments, anything, whatever you want to keep it global. Anything you want to clip it global, you can put any type of data, number, array, string, anything. Initially, I kept only likes. Okay. That is the first stage. So we have to configure the store. Next, what we have to configure reducer. So reducer is a function. This is reducer function. It will have state and have an action. What we'll do is we will have a switch into that action type. Action type. And what is the case? If action type is likes, like, dislike, comment, so whatever action is. If action type is like, what should happen? If action type is like, then I have to return an object with likes and what it should do, it should increase state dot likes plus 1. It should increase like by 1. So state can access the store. The store contains likes and it can increase by 1 and it can store in the same likes concept. That's it. Later we can add other detail also. That's it. We defined this option. You can have dislike, you can have comment, you can have various. Okay. So initial store is ready. Your reducer also ready. Now the store and reducer must be used by your component. How to use them in your component? What you have to do? LET. One is state, another one dispatch is equal to use reducer because use reducer is an object and that object, you know that this is object destructuring. In JavaScript, you learned array destructure, object destructure. This is object destructuring. So we have two options. What is it? One is the reducer. Another one is initial state. Initial state. So use reducer will use reducer function and it will use initial state. That means data. Now what should happen is function handle like click. On like click, it should dispatch it should dispatch one action. So dispatch which action? Action type. Action type is what? Like. That means when button click, on button click, handle like click. When user clicks the button, and this button will dispatch an action called like. And what that like action will do, reducer will increase the like by 1 and store in the global store. That means it will increase the like and it will store in the global store. That means in the global store now like is 1. What is advantage? This person will sign out and another person will log in. He will see the 1 count. That means that likes is globally stored. You end this component, you go to another component and access from there. In that component also it is available. It is continuing. So generally data from one component to another is not transported. We learned that for that various techniques are required. But here it will be global so that we can access and use from anywhere. And where you want to show this, I want to show the like here. I want to show the like here, roughly out beside. Here state dot what likes. State dot likes and the word is likes. Like this we are using. Through state, we can access the likes and we can use the likes. Through state, we can access and we can use the likes. So actually, so here in the output here, some problem. Cannot read likes. Where is the problem? Acha, here it is having like type only. Some issue is there in the state. What it is returning an object, it is fine. So this likes why it is showing that issue here. Like is unable to access. Why it is unable to access? I will check once. Huh? Is destructuring. It is an array type. It is returning an array. So reducer action, state and dispatch. Okay. Permissions policies. Huh? Some problem. Fine. Yeah. So this is using an array type. It is returning an array. Let me correct this. It is not object returned. It is array return. Array return means array destruction. So actually initial state is object. Initial state is an object. But reducer is returning two elements. One is reducer, another one is initial state. So it is an array of reducer and initial state. Initial state is object type. That's fine. So it is destructuring. Now you can see here what happens when I click on this. When I click on like, then it will increase the like. And again click on like, it will increase the like. This is not simply incrementation. This is the data stored global. What is the point? You sign out and another person sign in, he will see the same count continuing. That means it is available to all components and it is available to all sessions. Every component can use this store. How it can use the store? By using use reduce. We create for one location and we can access and use from any location. That means the data updated from one component can be seen by another, can be used by another component. This type we will implement in large scale in our to-do application because our to-do have login, logout options. There you will see clearly how it works. So this is the concept of how a global state actually works. But we will implement in an example now. In our project, we will implement this. So this is at a small scale, just in an app with few components, small data you want to maintain, then you can go with use reducer. What are issues with the global state? Yesterday we discussed some important issues with the global state. What are the issues with the global state? So issues with the global state, first important is it is not predictable. It is not predictable. So it is not debuggable. It is not predictable. It is not debuggable. So it is difficult. It is difficult for a developer to track the actions and the state. To track the actions and state. So it is difficult for developers to track the actions and track the state. So these are the major problems. So for developers' convenience to track, to predict, to centralize the data and identify what is being updated, when it is being updated, we have a separate library for them. So developers will use these libraries to manage state so that they are easy for debugging, testing. So what is that library? So what is the solution for these issues? So better to use any toolkit for state management. What is toolkit? Actually, toolkit provides end-to-end solutions. Solution for developer to design, debug, and test. Provides end-to-end solution for developer to design, debug, and test. Some popular toolkits. So you have like Redux, just and that's it. So we have Redux, just and some basic. So we have issues with this. So at higher level, we can use them for large scale applications. So Redux toolkit, how we can use Redux toolkit. So Redux toolkit and its purpose. So Redux toolkit and what is its responsibilities and all. I told you yesterday we discussed that. So what is it? Redux JS. So what is Redux? It is a JavaScript library for predictable and maintainable global state. Because global state is not easy to predict. It is not easy to debug. That's the reason you see their key features. It is predictable, centralized, debuggable, flexible, reusable, extendable easily. These are not for developers. These are not for users. These are all for developers. For developers' convenience to handle state at a large scale, they use this. For user experience, for him, everything is similar in work. That means you designed with reducer, it works same. You design with Redux, it will work same. Only the point is the background facilities. At large scale, how it performs. Is it if any issue faced by client can be easily tracked or not? Such things, reducer is not good. Then we can go with these kind of tools. So these are all developers features, feature for developers, right? So what is Redux toolkit? So it is a JavaScript library. It is a JavaScript library for predictable and maintainable global application state. It features so predictable, centralized. So we have debuggable, extensible. These are the features. So it provides a complete toolkit with various components built in for various built-in components for handling global state. So a complete toolkit with various built-in components for handling global state. Right. So how this works in our project, how we use it. What you can do is you can download Redux Developer Tools extension for your browser. Redux Developer Tools extension is present for your browser to track the global state. To track the global state, you can add this Redux Developer Tools. So that means in my browser, in the Edge, I'm having extensions. You see Redux Dev Tools. Just you Google, you will get it. So what you Google is Redux Dev Tools. You will see extension for Edge, extension for Chrome, right? You have to install them. So Redux Dev Tools extension for Edge. Already I added it. It is installed. You just need to add. They are important for tracking the options. Redux Dev Tools for every browser is available. You can download it. Okay. Now how we can create? How we can create this and use it? First point. So what you have to do? First, you have to install Redux Toolkit for your project. npm install @redux.js/toolkit and React Redux and save. Remember, this is not only for React. Don't think that Redux is for React. It is for any JavaScript based technology. In even ordinary simple HTML JavaScript page also you can use Redux. So Redux is not React related. Redux is a JavaScript library. You can use anywhere in JavaScript. So what people usually relate and think that Redux is for React. Redux is not for React. It can be used everywhere, right? So first step, you have to install the Redux toolkit. Let's go to our main project now. I will stop this project and open the to-do application. This is our to-do application. In this application, we will run API and run dev. Okay. And install Redux Toolkit. npm install redux.js/toolkit and React Redux and save. We are installing Redux.js Toolkit and React Redux. It is installed successfully. Okay. Now lot of work is there. Because it is at large scale, we need to maintain everything separate. First important, in the Redux toolkit, they have a component called slicer. Slicer is a component provided by Redux toolkit. What is purpose of slicer is it will configure the global store, what data you want to store, what actions you want to perform, everything is defined inside slicer. So first, once you complete install, you have to add slicer into project. So what you have to do is in src folder, you add slicers, separate folder, maintain a separate folder. In that slicer name, you have to add the slicer name.jsx. Any name for the slicer and define. Actually, slicer configures the data to store globally. Slicer configures the data to store globally. It also configures the actions. It also configures the actions. Configures actions to dispatch the data and update the data. It also configures actions to dispatch the data and update the data. So it is defined by using create slice. By using create slice. It is defined by using create slice. So what should happen here is, first, how do we define this? In that slicer constant, here we have to define constant. Slicer name is equal to create slice method. In this, we have a first important name. You have to give a slicer name for slicer. and you have to define initial state. Actually, above we have initial state. Initial state, it defines the data to handle. Initial state, and it will have reducers. Reducers is an object which contains action 1, what functionality it should perform. It have action 2, what functionality it should perform. We have to define. So we have to tell what data to store, what actions to perform. Previously, actions we separately designed in a reducer. Here, reducers, what actions you want. So, what data you want to store. And what, remember, because you are maintaining in a separate file, you have to export actions and you have to export reducer. You have to export this reducer and these actions. If you can export them, then only you can use in any application, any component. So what you have to do is export slicer name dot actions. You have to export actions and you have to export default slicer name dot reducer. Actually, here, one small point. What actions you have to define here? Action 1 and action 2 from actions. You have to define like this. You need to export first action and second action, these two actions from actions. And after that, you have to export reducer. That means this reducer is exported, these actions are exported. Then you can access and use anywhere. We have to configure a slicer. Slicer defines what data to store, what actions to perform. So see what we are doing in our project now. We will maintain a separate folder in SRC, slicers. That is a separate folder. I will add here. Suppose share slicer dot JSX, because we want to share the appointment. If a user shares his appointment, it will be watched by others. So share slicer we are creating. Okay. How do we define the slicer? In constant, this is slicer name. Slicer name is share slicer. Create slice. That is from Redux toolkit, we have to get the create slice. And important, what is the data you want to handle? We have to configure the data. What is the data? Initial state is equal to, I want two details. One is appointments. That means it contains the shared appointments array. Another one is, so it will have uh, appointments length, appointments count, that is 0. how many appointments are there, and count, and what are the appointments. You have to get them. More clear means you can say these are what? Shared appointments. And this is shared appointments count. How many shared appointments and what is their count? We need to define them. Okay. Now what create slice has to do is, this create slice contains one is name, slicer name. I will give as share slicer. That is the name. Any name you can give. Initial state, what data it should handle. Initial state data it should handle. What actions it should perform. Reducers. Reducers is an object which contains what actions to perform. I have one action. So what is that action? Share. That means we will say add to share. Add to share is an action. What this action has to do? It should perform some functionality. What it should do? Add to share is an action. What it should do? Actually, this action will have a state and action. It can have a